Our mission is to give everyone the power to live healthier and happier lives, because what is possible through this opportunity, through this family, through these products is just enormous, and we have only scratched the surface.
That I'm celebrating my 30th birthday, probably last month rather than this month, but pretty well exactly my 30th birthday. And the reason I say that is that 30 years ago, almost to the day, I had a scary cancer diagnosis, late stage cancer, and that was close to a death sentence. And so the fact that I'm still alive means that I'm celebrating my 30th birthday, because I could have just been dead 30 years ago. So that's really quite exciting. I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if I had a birthday balloon that I could have around today? Anyway, what happened was that I had this diagnosis. Anyone who gets a cancer diagnosis gets a very big fright. But in those days, my children were very young. They were 8 and 5 years old. And so that was a doubly big fright, because I had young children to raise. And in those days also, I was extremely young to be getting cancer. 30 years down the road, people are getting it younger and younger. But in those days, I was one of the youngest people that anyone knew in our sort of circles. So I was faced with this diagnosis, and I went the full medical route. I had a massive surgery, I had over a year's worth of chemotherapy, and I had radiation. But I'm a biochemist and immunologist by training. And as you said earlier, we know, and I knew then because of my training, that the body is a self-sustaining organism, and that it knows what to do, and its mission is to stay strong and healthy. But it can't do that job unless it is properly nourished. I also knew that I was doing the best job I knew how to feed the family. And we were one of those really quite unusual families, I suppose, in that there was no junk food. I have to tell you, I never bought my children ever a Kentucky Fried Chicken or a McDonald's. We just were not that kind of family. It was always home-cooked meals, no sweets to speak of, and so on. And here I was with a cancer diagnosis. And so I realized that what I was able to do with my best intentions was not enough to supply the nutrition that my body needed. Because if I was properly nourished, my immune system would have been up to the fight and would not have allowed me to go down that route. So while I was being treated, and I had my first chemo treatment before I'd even left hospital from the surgery, because everyone was extremely worried about my situation at that time, I decided immediately to look for some nutritional supplements to support me through this journey. I mentioned it to my oncologist, and I was now that I look back, I'm very grateful that he didn't say, don't do it, because to this day, there are many doctors who say, don't take any supplements at all. My doctor didn't actually say that, but he said, well, if it makes you happy, do it, but you will be wasting your money. So I said, well, that's fine. I'm happy to waste my money on that particular thing. And I went on the hunt for supplements that I felt would be worth taking. And I needed them to fill a number of criteria and tick a number of boxes, but two of them that I'll mention are that they needed to be all natural. They needed to come from food. I didn't want anything that was synthetic, and I didn't want anything that I wouldn't normally be eating. So I was looking for that. And the other thing that I needed them to do was to have been properly researched. And the reason for that was that I was a research scientist. It mattered to me. Research counts for me. And so I was extremely grateful when I was introduced to these products, because as people know on this call, if somebody doesn't tell you about it, you will never know, because you can't go into a shop and find out about it. And so I was told about these products, And here was something that I could commit to taking. And what I would like people to understand is that I didn't take a big basket full of things. I took some basic nutritional supplements from the Neolife company. It wasn't called Neolife at the time, but same products. And what I took would be equivalent to now a Pro Vitality and a CalMag. Basically, that was what I took. And then if I was not feeling like eating very much, I might add a NutriShake. And so those are the two products that I took. And well, the rest is history in terms of what it did for me, because I survived the treatment and I continued to live for 30 years. And I hope I'm not about to shuffle off. I think I'm strong and healthy and got a lot of living to do. But what is interesting is that when you do chemotherapy, you are on the same schedule as other people who are undergoing the treatment at the same time. And so you meet the same people at the chemo, the place where they administer the chemo every month or every 3 weeks or whatever the schedule is. And you get to know those people quite well because you see them regularly and you're all in the same boat. And so some of those people became friends of mine, and we continued our relationship after the treatment was over. And not one of those people actually made the 5-year mark. One got close to 5 years, the other didn't get close to 5 years. She made about 2 years. What is also interesting is that if you get 2 years of life post-chemo, you're considered in the medical stats as a success story. Well, for me, 2 years post, not post-chemo, but 2 years post-diagnosis, you're considered a success story. 2 years post-diagnosis would have given me about 9 months off treatment. And my kids would have been maybe 10 and 7 years old. That wasn't enough life. And so I got a whole lot more than those friends of mine got. And the reason I'm absolutely certain was that I was taking nutritional supplements, and not just any old nutritional supplements, but these particular ones. Those particular people, my friends, were not interested in following my lead. They didn't want to know. And so I'm extremely grateful that I found them, that I committed to taking them, and that I'm here to tell the story. Yeah. That when you are not well and you are being treated, you tend to feel like a victim. So especially with something like cancer, you know, you hand yourself over to the doctors for the treatment, and you hope, like Billy-O, that they're going to do something to mend you, but you are in victim mode. And I think that one of the very important things about taking the supplementation, over and above the fact that your body needs it and your body says, thank you very much, I can fight this battle for you, is that you gain agency. You are no longer the victim. You are playing a positive role in your health. And that is extremely empowering, because, you know, if you feel nothing you can do and you hope that someone else is going to do it for you, you're on the back foot in terms of getting well. And when you are doing something that is actively contributing to the process, it serves you really well. And I want people to just perhaps hear that you are giving yourself and you're giving people power, instead of handing power over to other people, you know, to the medical profession for your health. And that is, well, it's empowering. And that is a wonderful thing that we can do. But you're also right that we are not looking to cure sick people, because we can't offer that, and we certainly can't promise that, and we can't diagnose and we can't prescribe. It's not our job to do that. But my mission changed from looking after my own health to trying to teach people that prevention is very much better than cure. And that you can, in fact, equip your body to stay healthy and well and strong for longer, and probably not, in fact, go down into those chronic ailments at all. The only problem is that people find it difficult to hear that message, just as it turned out for me. I needed a hammer on my head to suddenly realize, well, whatever you think you're doing right, it's not quite enough. And that's true for many people. And so to try and persuade people to do what they need to do to keep themselves healthy is quite a task. But that's the task that we've got. And as you said earlier in the introduction, COVID has been an interesting time. And one of the things that we all heard over and over and over again was that the people who got really sick with the virus and didn't make it were all suffering from what were called comorbidities. In other words, they already had health challenges. They were, in fact, people who were obese, who were diabetic, who had heart diseases and blood pressure diseases and all that kind of stuff. And they were the people who didn't have the power within their bodies to tackle this novel, it appears, virus. The rest of the people who were in better health basically managed to deal with it. And so we are really playing with fire if we allow ourselves to go down into the chronic disease situation. And most people these days do. We almost expect to get some chronic disease as we age. And people are surprised to hear that you're not taking any medication at all, for example, when you reach 60 or 70 or whatever. It's very unusual. And yes, so I do try and share my story with people who are well, but quite often the best traction you get is when people have got their own little problem or bigger problem that they really are now paying attention to. Such simple solutions that make a huge difference to people's lives. And so my message to people who are listening in is that you simply cannot go wrong either in taking any of our products, but if you can, as a starting kit, take Pro Vitality, that would be great. But any of our products will do you a whole lot of good and will do anybody that you talk to a whole lot of good. You simply cannot do them any less than some good, and it's often far more good than you ever imagined. And so I just want to pay a little bit of attention to Pro Vitality because it's such a wonderful product. And I regard it as a Rolls Royce of a multivitamin, because it's not just the vitamins and minerals, but it's also got all these added extras that we all know so well. The first added extra is, of course, the TreeNN. And the people who don't know this company would not know this yet, but the rest of us do. It's the only company on the planet that has got this particular product. And this particular product, called TreeNN, was discovered or understood to be important in 1958, which is 62 years ago. It's actually the product in which the whole company was founded. And it was found to be an essential nutrient that was being removed because of the refining of the grains that was starting to become the regular practice in those days. It was becoming regular practice because food was being mass produced, and it was important to be able to make bread by hundreds and thousands of loaves and to have them in the shops and to have a long shelf life for those breads. But what they were doing in the process was removing the real nutritional value of the grains and leaving us really with just the empty calories, the carbohydrates. And they discovered that people were just losing their energy. They weren't sick. There was nothing identifiable wrong with them, but they just weren't feeling great at all. And so the researchers found that when they added those oils from the grains back into the diet of people, their energy came back. And that is what TreeNN is about. And so anybody who is a bit short on energy will find big benefit from TreeNN. But it's not just the energy, it's actually every single cell in your body needs it to function properly, and therefore every single organ in your body needs it, and therefore you cannot do without it. And if you're running on empty in terms of those particular oils, they're called lipids and sterols, you will not feel great, and you will, over time, get sick. So it's a very important thing to add. And a multivitamin that you get somewhere else that doesn't have that is running you short. There's just no question about it. And then they've added to it the omega, and the omega is something that I think everybody who isn't an Eskimo should probably be, should be taking. We do not get it enough in our diets. Because we don't get enough of it, we live in a state of chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is what is considered to be the foundational cause of all our ill health. And it's not only an anti-inflammatory, which is a super important role, but it is also a structural component of our brains. And so if you're running short on omega-3, you're basically running short on brain power. And we don't want to do that, do we? You know, our brains are fundamentally important to us, and we want to be as sharp mentally as we can possibly be. So omega-3 is super important. I have a little ditty which I teach people sometimes, which is head, heart, prostate, knees. And those are places where you can think about the benefits of omega-3. Head, the brain; heart, because it is extremely important for the health of the heart and the circulation; prostate, because it's an essential nutrient for men to keep their prostates healthy; and knees, because of the anti-inflammatory effect and the arthritis and so on, sore knees and sore joints. And then the final component is the carotenoid complex, which is the immune booster. And when we suffer from infections or cancers or any of those ailments, it's because our immune system isn't functioning properly. And so we need to have the nutrients on board which build our immune systems, and the carotenoid complex does just that. So there's a complete package that sets us up for good health. And I obviously am aware of the fact that that people's financial circumstances are different. If someone can afford Pro Vitality, it's the best starting point. If they cannot afford Pro Vitality, then any one of those components would be of value. But what I would probably say, the least that you should take is the TreeNN. If there's only one thing you can take the TreeNN, and that on its own will start transforming your life. And when you start feeling better and so on, and more energetic, maybe you will start sharing that news with other people, and you can generate a bit of money for yourself, and then you can afford Pro Vitality for yourself. So that's a fantastic possibility. So people who are looking at taking supplements, what is really affordable? And here's an interesting comparison. A small takeaway coffee cappuccino from Woolworths in a in a disposable cup. It's not very big, smells delicious. In fact, you can benefit just from the smell. I think I walk through Woolies just to get the smell of the coffee, and I'm quite satisfied with that. And I save the 27 Rand. But people will spend 27 Rand on a takeaway coffee without batting an eyelid. I mean, it's just what you do. And I just want to add another thing I saw. I was at a checkout counter, and there was a young woman. I'm sure she was a university student. She was just ahead of me, and she was buying what must have been her lunch, I suppose. And there was a packet of chips, and there was a drink, a fizzy drink, and there was a small packet of about 3 rusks. You can buy rusks in small amounts, and there was a chocolate, and I wanted to see how much it cost. So I watched as the cashier was ringing it up, and it was a matter of cents short of 50 Rand. So here was a student who was perfectly happy to spend 50 Rand on 100% junk in terms of nutritional value. And presumably she did that every day. That's probably how she fed herself. So 50 Rand on junk, 27 Rand on a Willie's cappuccino. And at retail, you can get a daily supply of those amazing health supporting nutrients in a Pro Vitality for 25 Rand. So it is a matter of priorities. What are your priorities? Your health or a few moments of pleasure, which is basically what the coffee is. So one sentence. I don't know if people picked it up right at the beginning, but I would like to repeat it to distributors on the call. And that is, if someone had not told me about these products, I would not have known about them, and I probably would be dead, to be a bit melodramatic. But the responsibility we have as distributors is enormous. That people need to hear what we've got. What they do with it then is entirely up to them. It's not our responsibility to make their decisions for them, but they need to hear that there is something that can help them. And if we don't open our mouths, and I'm not talking to anyone, I'm including myself in that. If we don't open our mouths and tell people, we might just be condemning someone to a journey in ill health that they would not want to take. We've got a huge responsibility, and it's a huge honor to be able to tell people. So don't waste the opportunity.